Gentlemen, let's broaden our minds.
The truth! Just set you free! You can't handle the truth! We came, we saw, we kicked its ass!
That's not how the Force works. Oh, really? You're cold?
I'm gonna make him an offer again.
I'd buy that for $1.
Oh, I'm sorry. Did I break your concentration?
Hasta la vista, baby.
I don't have friends. I got family.
Surely you can't be serious.
I am serious. And don't call me Shirley.
I can do this all day.
Yeah, I know.
Hello and welcome to the Creative Control Movie Podcast, and thank you for joining us for episode 28. In this week's episode, we're going to be doing our roundup review of December. So we are going to be looking at all the cinema releases during December, streaming services, Netflix, Amazon, Disney Plus, everywhere, kind of talking through the films that we've seen, giving our opinions on it, give it some ratings, and then we're also going to cover any movies that we might have released earlier in the year. Obviously, Christmas period, there's a little bit more downtime. I know a few of us on here had COVID, so we were like locked away, so we had a chance to catch up on some movies. So joining me for today's episode, we have our regular team. We have Alex, Lee, Sacha, and Neil. How we doing, people?
Doing good.
Still, everyone's COVID free now, right? Everyone's able to go out.
Yeah.
Okay, good stuff.
I haven't had it yet. Touch wood.
Oh yeah, you've well, Sacha and yourself. Neither of you have had it, have you? So you've lucked out.
Keep that rum going.
Neil, you were quite bad with it, weren't you?
Oh yeah, it kicked my ass for like 10 days straight. The whole time I was off.
And Lee, were you actually ill with it, or did you just had it?
No, I had it, but it was more just like cold, really.
Yeah.
Not even a bad cold. I mean, I had a cold in like mid-November or end of November, and it was like really bad, constant sneezing, like really bad cold. And I was testing there, and it was like negative. And then I did a test Christmas Eve, and come back positive. And I was like getting ready just to go to work. And what the hell's that
so
about?
you got isolated for Christmas, didn't you? So
yeah, so it was really bad. Because it was just very frustrating because I think being in isolation as well didn't help the process. Being isolated indoors from everyone, actually, I think I felt more run down. If I would have just got up and got out and, went out fresh air and started moving and, and all that kind of thing, I think that would have helped my recovery rather than me just sitting at home feeling sorry for myself. But no, lucky enough, I'm all good now. So
good. And what was an opportunity to say a belated Merry Christmas to all our listeners and a Happy New Year. This is our first podcast of 2022. Had a hell of a ride last year. We really thank you for all your support. So while you're there, whatever platform you're listening, make sure you subscribe, you're rating us. This is the year that we all want to quit our jobs and do this full time. So help us make it happen.
Make it happen.
Right. So let's start with some of the cinema releases. So I almost forgot this one. I literally just remembered as I hit the record button. Our first trip to the cinema in December, Sacha, you remember this? Resident Evil, Welcome to Raccoon City. If you're not watching this, you can see the horror in Sacha's face.
You said the title and he muted himself and then just shook his head.
So Resident Evil, Welcome to Raccoon City. Now, I'm not a person who's played the games. I think I played one game, Resident Evil 3, maybe on the Wii, like when Sacha lent me his Wii like ages ago, where you could do like the bow and arrow stuff. And I was like, okay, cool. So I went into this not knowing anything really. And it was a pretty awful movie, even for somebody who's not a fan of the franchise, the characters or anything. It very much felt like a straight to DVD type or movie. And I mean that as in it wasn't really good enough for Netflix streaming. It was. There's a difference between Netflix movies, streaming movies, and bargain basement DVD movies, and that. Just ridiculous plot points, really over the top scenes, real overacting, and it was just it frustrated me. And to see Sacha, who's a fan of the franchise, it's just like the way he's seeing these characters brought to life on the screen in this this new version. Yeah, he was quite horrified. So, Sacha, is there anything you want to say on it, or do you want to just kind of move on?
I think Yui Boyle would have done a better job.
Hey,
that's how I feel about it. It was terrible, man. It was like some fanboy got the license from Capcom and went to town, man. I don't know where he got the budget from. Fair enough. Okay, you had some cool set design where they made it look like the game, but you know, it had the worst script ever. George Lucas could have written a better script. It was bad. It was freaking bad.
It was
Not
bad.
only that,
There was
it
one
was
scene
like,
in particular, which is, I think is from the game, Sacha, where this like tanker drives through to the front of like the police station. And the way they did it is like there's the guy at the front desk with like a Sony Walkman headphones on, because this is like set in like the 80s or whatever it is.
90s.
And he's listening to music, and the tanker comes down. Nicely, so the tanker comes down, just like kind of explodes in front of him. It's like he doesn't hear a thing. It's like, bruv ain't wearing noise cancelling headphones. Yeah, headphones and Walkmans that you wore in the 90s, you could hear everything. And it was just just ridiculous things like that, which tried to play out for some humor, and it just was just just so bad.
And that was just it. If you know the game, that was nothing like how it went down in the game. The guy in the station, he was like outside kind of thing. Like that's the opening cutscene number 2.
Yeah, didn't he run out of the way?
Yeah, they run out. That's how they get separated, because he's with Claire, and then the tanker hits the, and as that happens, that sets the light, and they're on either side of it, and the zombies are everywhere. I mean, like, yeah, it's bad, man. Like most people, like Leon Kennedy is a fan favorite. He's done it injustice. They take the rookie cop cliche to a whole nother level of dumbness. Guy can't use a shotgun in one scene, yet knows how to operate a goddamn fucking
bazooka at the end.
Yeah, RPG. It was like, what the fuck is going on, man? And Wesker, oh my god, Wesker was, seriously, it was bad. It was really bad. You know what? It was so bad, it made the cutscenes from the original game look great. In fact, I would have preferred it if they said this is the acting and we're going to copy the original game, where it's like, hey Chris, over there, and stuff like that. I would have laughed my ass off. Fair enough, it would have made no money, because equally a lot of people would have thought it was shit, but at least I would have got it. You know what I mean? This film tried to bite off more than it could chew. It tried to put 2 games into one movie. Really didn't work. Didn't even adapt either one well, and it was just terrible, man. It was terrible.
Yeah, I think I might have given it 2 or 3 out of 10. I can't remember, but
3. I gave it a quarter of a star.
So I'm sure that's going to make my top 10 worst films of the year anyway, and Sasha's as well. So next up in the cinema, I take it none of the rest of you saw it.
I just wondered how these films get made, because, like you say, it's such a big franchise. Resident Evil, it's been around for years, and obviously it's had a few.
Sony own it?
Yeah, a lot of it's down to rights. So sometimes they just have to make a movie to hold on to the rights. And they wanted to keep it probably low budget. They probably had, with the pandemic and everything going on, they're probably tightening their string purses and just like, you know what, if we can make this as cheap as possible and just kind of put it out there. I can imagine what has kind of happened. So
again, don't Sony own it?
Yeah,
Sony owned you know what? I think Sony owned the distribution rights, but I don't think they owned the actual screen rights to the IP. I think at this point, the screen rights went back to Capcom and Constantine Films or whoever the fuck they were. They were like, cool, let's just grab that. Because it's all about IP. And, you got to understand, like, I think Resident Evil as a film franchise, they're shot on the cheap anyway. They're not like Avengers level money makers, but they are. But the franchise in general was a money maker. I mean, it started on like a 20 million budget or 30 million budget, made 100 million. That's bare profit if you think about it, considering. And I think like the last one was probably in the 100 million range. And still at that point, it's making back about 400 million. I am not looking at Box Office Mojos, but do you know in front of me, so I can't give you exact numbers, but you can see what I mean in terms of what they
hugely
put in and the
profitable.
return.
Yeah,
that's a huge return, and they bankrolled that until they got bored, not the audience, until they decided, you know what, maybe we should do other movies, or they're rich in it. They're rich bitches, so they're like, yeah, we're done. We're cool. We've done what we can now go make other shit films now. But like, opportunity for next guy, and this film was on a shoestring budget, and in some places you could really tell it was. It lost money, but has it dented the brand? I don't think it has. Maybe a movie adaptation shouldn't be done for a while. Maybe a Netflix series would be better. But then I've seen the pictures for that Netflix series, and I ain't impressed with that either. So you know what I mean?
Yeah, the Netflix series is the name. The budget reports are the budget for this one was 25 million, which in this day and age, is what it is. So
how much should it gain back at the moment so far?
I can have a quick look. I have to say though, in fairness,
however much money you paid for your ticket, that's what it means.
Cineworld, so we didn't pay squat. They can take my percentage. They can take my £2-3 percentage of what that would have been for the amount of times I visited in December. Kaya Scalderio, she was okay in it. To be fair, she did carry the movie for what it was. She was the one who was in what was that crocodile movie? Cruel.
Yeah, Cruel.
So and I think she is a talent. So let's.
It's all right. You know what? That makes me feel better about it, because now I think every good actor needs a dud film.
It's grossed 33 million worldwide.
33.
Wow. Yeah. I'm sorry, I shouldn't laugh. That's
a bit of a hard flop then.
that's hard.
Wow.
God damn.
Has it opened in every market though? That's the other thing.
It's
Can China
open,
save it?
It grew 16 million in America. 16.
Yeah.
So what? It made 14 in Europe, and that's it.
The UK made 675 grand.
I'm intrigued. Let's have a look.
There's people that win more money than that.
Opened in Mexico, Colombia, Russia, Australia. Hasn't hit China, but
okay. So yeah, hasn't. Hang on.
I still ain't gonna save it though. It's not gonna save nothing.
Okay, so it's not open in all areas just yet.
And I don't think it will, because they're not going to spend any more money on marketing. It's like,
did they really spend money in marketing?
Just let it die. Let it die. All right, let's move on from Resident Evil. Right, so the next film is West Side Story. So Steven Spielberg's reimagining of this. How many of you have seen it?
Yep.
You've all seen it. Rest of you haven't. Okay.
Not a musical.
I was a huge fan of the original movie. I'm a fan of the musical. I actually studied it for my GCSE music. It was part of something that we were doing at the time, which we had to write an essay on and stuff like that. So I knew the songs quite well. I knew themes and all that kind of stuff. So, for me, I think maybe because of the issues with the main star, I don't think it maybe got the publicity that it would have in terms of marketing, in terms, just like interviews and all that kind of stuff. Because
what were the issues?
Anson Elgort has been sort of like Me Too'd. He's been doing some naughty things. So I just don't think it kind of got that. But as a movie, it was fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. It was gorgeous. The cinematography, the set design, the lighting, the color palette, it was magnificent. There's really strong performances. Ansel Elgort was great. Rachel Zelga, really great. It's a really strong cast. I think Spielberg said when he was doing it that every single person in it had to have a Latino heritage. From the Latino side, to try and make it as genuine as possible. One thing the decision made was that it was not subtitled. So any part in the movie where they spoke Spanish, it wasn't subtitled in English.
Yeah, I heard about that actually. Yeah.
Yes, you're right.
Yeah, it was a decision by Spielberg because what he said is he didn't want to dumb the film down to be for a typical American or white audience, in a sense of, this is for white people, so we need to subtitle it for white people. It was supposed to be for everyone, for Latinos. So what? But I think that hopefully, if they do audio described versions or subtitle versions, just do the English in Spanish as well. I don't understand why there wouldn't be a subtitle version where you have the Spanish subtitled in English and then the English subtitled in Spanish to make it fair, because there might be a lot of people out there who want to see a subtitle version because of whatever disability they have and they don't get the opportunity. So I think that might be a little bit disappointing. Might be something that comes on the Blu-ray or DVD release or whatever.
I was curious when I heard about that. Is it the case of you don't need, you can still
you get what they're saying.
The story.
You can very much understand exactly what's going on.
They kind of, what they do is they will kind of say something in Spanish and then kind of almost repeat it in English, or say the same thing again in English. So you do understand what they're saying. You get it from the performances, you get it from the environment, and it does feel authentic in that sense. So there's for me, there's a big praise. I thought that was really good. I didn't have an issue with it at all.
It's just something I've seen it in like movies and TV shows before, but it's always been where you don't really need to know what they're talking about. It'll just be like side characters chatting away in whatever Russian or whatever whatever language it is that obviously the film is around, and it's kind of like it's just to add a little something where you don't actually need to know what they're saying. Where obviously for this it sounded like it was more obviously to follow the story potentially, but I had heard that it wasn't really necessary to actually get the subtitles.
No, definitely
from the expressions and that.
Yeah, you get it. You get it all from the performances. You get it all from the performances. And as much as I think this is a really well made movie and it's Spielberg on great form, it wasn't my favorite musical this year. But I can understand, and I would be happy if Spielberg actually won Best Director for this at the Oscars, because he directed the hell out of that, even though it might not be the best movie, So, but Neil, what was your thoughts on it?
Easily, I mean, look at that. I'm sure I sent you guys my original top 10 for the year.
Yeah.
And then I watched like 3 or 4 other films, and I was like, nah, this got to change. And West Side Story went in there immediately.
Mm-hmm.
That everything you said, Ken, I second. I mean, the film genuinely felt actually authentic.
Yeah.
Like for I feel like anyone who watches that film, if English is your second language, if you had to learn English, you will understand the sharks. You will understand the whole thing of it's so simple to just speak in your mother tongue because the people you're talking to understand it, and then they have to say no, say it in English because you have to practice.
Yeah.
That, and I mean, even some of the changes they made. I mean, can I throw out spoilers? Because
this is
if you haven't seen it, then stick your fingers in your ears. But they made some changes. So like they changed some of the orders of the songs, and they changed some of the people who did the songs. Like they gave like a particular song to a different character or something, and it worked. It absolutely worked. I mean, the only issue I had with the film was at the end. I feel like Maria should have been acting. Her acting more passionate. There should have been more emotion in Maria at the end. Other than that, chef's kiss. And those scenes that you're talking about, there is one scene in particular, and this scene is shown in the trailer. I believe it's the first scene in the second trailer. And my gosh, when you see the scene in the film, it feels totally different.
Is that the one with the shadows?
Yes. It's right. It's when
that's probably like my second scene of the year. The way that was shot and the lighting and the way, like you say, it feeds together from the story in the movie. It was beautiful, beautifully done. And a big shout out to Mike Faced, who played Riff. I thought he was really, really good. And Ariana DeBose, who played Anita. Fantastic. She was amazing. She was amazing. Real passion there. So yeah, big shout out for that movie. Definitely go see it, guys. And all listeners. Is definitely one to watch for the year. Actually a really strong year for musicals, and we'll probably touch on some more of those later. Right, so I think we've been waiting for which seemed like forever. We did our separate review of this. Unfortunately, Neil and Sacha couldn't make it on that one, but Spider-Man No Way Home. Okay, so I gotta say, when all the stuff was coming out about Spider-Man, and we were gonna have the Spider-Man from spoilers, different universes appearing in this movie, and the fact that they were going to bring back Tobey Maguire, Andrew Garfield, and all this kind of stuff, and the villains, I was not a fan. I was really adamant this is not what I wanted from the MCU. I was like, you're making the rest of the stuff canon. I don't like it. I don't want it. I think it's just like a cash grab, and I just didn't see it. The way it was executed, I hold my hands up and say that was a phenomenal job. It was done to perfection, and it was done in a way that it didn't overshadow the whole film with those two coming in. It wasn't like we've got 20 minutes of stuff and then we're throwing them in to have them in for a huge amount of time. I thought the actual screen time that they were given was a perfect amount. The interactions between the different characters is fantastic, and it's quite funny how many people have actually gravitated to Andrew Garfield from this movie who may have not been huge fans of Amazing Spider-Man. Now, I said recently I rewatched him before this movie, and I think I remember him too harshly. And I was like, actually, I enjoyed Amazing Spider-Man 1 and 2. 1 more than 2, but there was definitely parts of both that I liked, but they have definitely had their problems. For me, Andrew Garfield in this movie wasn't necessarily the same Peter Parker that we had, and he was like a matured version of him, and I think it served the character in his incarnation of it better. He just didn't seem as a cooler Peter Parker. Do you know what I mean? And just that kind of arrogance and stuff like that. He was a bit more weathered, and I think that definitely plays to his strength for him in the likability in the movie. But Neil and Sacha, let me go to you guys, because obviously Alex and Lee, we kind of spoke about it. But Neil, what was your thoughts on the film?
I really, really, really liked it, but I didn't love it.
Ooh, okay.
Controversial.
No, I think
emotional damage.
I think the reason why I didn't love it is because there was no surprises in it for me. There was every single kind of moment where, and I watched it twice in the cinema.
Mm-hmm.
There every moment where everyone else, I was like, that was 6 months ago. I knew that. Oh, that was 8 months ago. I knew that. And I was sitting there, and I was, in part, I have to hold up my hands and say it's my own fault because, I read up on films and I want to know about what's happening with these films that I'm watching. So it is, for all intents and purposes, my fault. But at the same time, I think back to Endgame, and I think back to Infinity War.
Mm-hmm.
And I think back to all the information that I knew. I read the comics. I knew to happen in certain respects. And yet there were so many shocks and surprises in both of those movies. There were so many times I had zero idea of what was about to happen.
Mm-hmm.
And yet with this film, I could almost pinpoint when things were going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
Is that because there's so many more characters in Endgame that there was more, because say what you had a lot of information for this film, a lot of information for Endgame. So what was the actual sort of, what's the difference?
Well, it was just like because I knew so much information, like, okay, I knew about the character, who was going to be in it. I knew who was going to be in it. So it was sort of like, I knew the moments that they were going to be in it.
Right.
So, it was like, oh, right after Peter gets arrested, and he's like, oh, he's sitting down talking with a lawyer, and I was like, well, I know who that is. And the moment was like, I need to find Peter Parker, and I was like, yep, I know exactly what's about to happen. It was a great movie, and in my heart I say I would probably have loved it if I knew nothing. If I absolutely went into it completely blind, it would be like, hands down, probably my favorite film of the year. if I knew nothing.
Yeah,
but I
I
went
understand
in.
that. I was in the same boat
so
as you, and it's the curse of being someone who reports on movie news and
Yeah.
tries to share things. And I didn't. I found this out, or I didn't share it with anybody because I wouldn't want to spoil any of this for anybody. But I knew both of them returning. I'd seen the videos, I'd seen the screenshots, seen the
Yeah, I
photos,
saw the clip
I'd
of
seen the
them.
Daredevil photos and Matt Murdock and stuff like that. So yeah, I was the same, but I still thought they did it well, And but I think what it was also is I probably enjoyed it more because the audience I watched it with was fantastic. We were at the
Okay.
IMAX. It was a sold out show on opening day, second showing of the day. And everyone was whooping and clapping and stuff like that. And I think maybe I got caught up in that as well. So even though I knew what it was and I knew what was happening, it was like, yeah, this is awesome. I love this. So yeah, I get what you mean though.
I did have other problems though.
He did have some problems. Don't get me wrong. Why, he didn't go to, Doctor Strange and say, just make everybody forget about Mysterio.
Yeah. No, do you know what? The whole thing of that, like the fact that because I think his request, I was comfortable with the request. It's like he is 16? He's 17, I think.
17 to 18.
Well, he's a senior in high school. He's about to graduate. So he's like 17, going to be 18 soon, right?
Yeah.
So I was like, I can understand the lack of specificity in his request.
Yeah.
But one of my issues came right at the damn end. I did not like that May Parker had her own grave. Sorry. I understand, for the people who don't know Spider-Man's lore, who just watch the movies, we ain't seen Uncle Ben in this. I understand that. I just don't give a fuck. I'm sorry. Yeah.
Well, the fact that we haven't actually we actually haven't seen him, that would have been the perfect just little nod to be like, he's like later rest.
And to me, I was like, you didn't even need to see his name. All you needed to see was a big grave, a double grave that said Parker, and maybe the flower down cover up where it says Ben, and all we know is something Parker and then May Parker. You know, that's all I needed. Just the acknowledgement, because in Homecoming, he acknowledges the existence of Uncle Ben. It's a blink and you'll miss it moment, but in the dialogue, he says the words. He says, I've had these powers for 6 months, and that happens, and you can stop it, and you don't. That little riff to me, okay, you could say it's a throwaway line, but to me, I'm like, you talking about Uncle Ben. And
I'm sure even in that first film, I'm sure he mentions. I'm trying to think. Is it to Ned when he says?
He says to Ned, May's been through a lot.
Been through a lot. And I'm sure he says.
Yeah.
I'm sure he says Uncle Ben. I'm sure he says Uncle Ben. Right. I mean, it's
he
been a while since
alludes to it rather than confirm.
Yeah, he doesn't confirm.
For me, I do have a huge issue with that also. But it doesn't stop me from not enjoying the movie to the extent that I did. Maybe they're reserving that for a future story later on. Maybe the events happened as the origin did happen. Maybe they have a story that they could tell with that. I don't know. I'm willing to skirt the issue.
I think it's just a different Peter Parker. We had Uncle Ben twice.
Yeah,
so
this
is different
with the origin, and that guilt from not doing that is why he's Spider-Man, why he puts on the suit in the first place. It's more or less the essential backbone to his origin story. You take that away, there's no point to him being Spider-Man anymore. There's no point into why he fights crime in the first place. All of that is gone, basically, because that's in the DNA of the character. And you could argue, but it's a different this. Get the fuck out of here, man. All right, cool. Bruce's parents are alive. See, part of the hero's journey is something awful has to happen in order for him to become the thing that he needs to do. And that's what all of these superhero origin stories are. They're another take on the hero's journey. And if that's not the event, there, and everyone's going, "Oh, it's Aunt May, it's Aunt May." No, it isn't, because he's already the guy. It changes.
Yeah,
nothing.
but he was, he's the guy. He's the guy in Homecoming that look, when we first see him, Robert Downey Jr., Iron Man finds him. Tony Stark finds him. He's just trying to help out a few bits and pieces there. So for me, I think it's just someone who's coming to some powers, and he feels like he can try and help some people.
That's not Spider-Man,
hang on.
That's
but that's what he does. And then obviously he has the mentorship with Tony Stark. He dies. He teaches him to be the friendly neighborhood Spider-Man, and he puts all that kind of pressure on him. Then he puts the pressure on him to be an Avenger, and he doesn't want to be, doesn't take that up, and then he becomes an Avenger.
See, that sucks.
So he has people.
I get what you're saying.
So why does Miles Morales become Spider-Man?
Well, he gets bitten by the spider, but he has hero worship with Peter.
Yeah,
in fact,
in
the comics, it's Peter's death. Sorry to spoil it for whoever don't know, but in the comics, it's Peter's death that motivates him to be Spider-Man.
So he's not Spider-Man before Peter dies.
That's true, because
he's got the powers.
He's got the powers,
but then
here's the thing. Interactions with Spider-Man in the DNA. It's so instilled in the DNA of the character that it's like, okay, fair enough. I get reinvention and all of that, but no, at least with the films before, it didn't throw that under a bus. It's like, we've told that story. We don't need to show it again. You know what I mean?
That's how I always. I would say one thing. Like, the little fleeting references to Ben. It's like, you assume whether it's exactly how it's always been in terms of Uncle Ben dying and this, that, and the other. But for me, the MCU is okay. Yeah, there's been an Uncle Ben. He has passed away tragically.
There's a lot of people out there that really have a big problem that Iron Man gives him.
Hold on. Don't talk over each other.
I was just going to say, this one was the it was just to get the line out. Really, was totally. Great power, great responsibility, which was down to May. But I always just took it that Ben existed.
Yeah,
the origin has kind of happened similar to how we've always known it. But as you said, we'd seen it 2 times previously, so Marvel are kind of we don't need to rehash it. We just
and Sony has taken a lot.
Your mind,
Sony have taken a lot from the PlayStation game with Aunt May and again, spoilers for the game, Aunt May's death in the game, him taking on the apartment, that whole end scene that he graduates in terms of donning his own suit with the sewing machine and all that kind of stuff. So, they took a lot from the PS4. Lee, what were you going to say?
I was going to say the only issue I had with Homecoming was, like, if we're saying that he's sort of 17, 18 now, we're saying that in Homecoming he was 15, 16.
Yeah.
So you think he's lost his parents, he's lost his uncle. At that age, and then the time that we meet him, I think he'd be a lot more damaged than what he was. I'm telling you now, I've lost both my parents and my uncle. I would not be as chirpy and up, like he was in that film.
But I would see what you, but for me, I would think oftentimes in certain iterations, they don't give you a reason why he's lost his parents. If they was, hypothetically, they died in a car, then he's always lived with his aunt. His memory of is different than if he lost his parents.
Minimal,
and lost his uncle at 15. And it's like, one thing I love to it is I like that made him the line. It's the with because in the circumstances that she gives it to him, it in the circumstances where she gives it to him, not only does it make sense, but it reaffirms or it gives you a reason as to why Spider-Man could go on into future events, future films, whatever, why you could look at it and say, okay, this is why Spider-Man doesn't kill. This is why Spider-Man always tries to save someone. Because even in her moments of dying, okay, she didn't know that she was going to die, but in her moments of dying, she was like, no, trying to save people, no matter how bad or misguided they
Difficult it
are,
might
is
be.
always the right thing. And I like that. I love that. That was brilliant. But it doesn't take away from the fact that there should have been some kind of, to me personally, obviously, it's just my own opinion. Kevin Feige outweighs my opinion by about 1 billion tons, right? And you know what he says goes, right? But to me, there should have been some kind of concrete affirmation that Uncle Ben existed and Uncle Ben died tragically.
Yeah, I have to say I was surprised that she wasn't lying
I
next to his
agree.
grave. I agree.
I agree, but like again, it's kind of like they don't need to retread it. But again, I don't like the them affirming that it's a retcon, if that makes sense, kind of thing.
Yeah.
But that's just me personally. Otherwise,
Yeah,
it didn't take away from my enjoyment of the movie. I really enjoyed this movie. I, you know, called it for. Remember when we did the Creative Control Spider-Man one? I said, look, there are 2 ways this could go down, and it turned out both of the ways I said were on the table with Marvel. The first way was they should do a Craven the Hunter story because the chameleon was set up in the last one because Dimitri is the chameleon. Dimitri, the bus driver, is the chameleon. The chameleon is a villain that can, you know, transform into anyone kind of thing with the mask and stuff. And in the comics, he transforms into Spider-Man, giving Spider-Man a way out of the identity crisis with Mysterio. You know?
Yeah, and I
So
thought
it's
he was
like,
going to use
okay,
some of the
well,
Mysterio tech
cool,
to
Craven.
create.
But then what would
that
be
image.
cool, and this would never happen, and this is what I said they should do like Spider-Verse. The Spider-Verse is a popular animated show, animated film. Let's do Spider-Verse, bring in all the Peter Parkers against a threat, whatever that threat may be. And then that way we can put Garfield with the Waste Venom universe, have Maguire in his Raimi trilogy, and Raimi could probably do a 4 and a 5 or whatever, you know what I mean, and finish his whole thing, because no one wants it to end on Spider-Man 3, let's be fair. And I knew that would never happen. I went ridiculous. I dreamt big. And guess what? We might be fucking getting all of this. So, you know,
you never know. Exactly. We might be.
They're talking about it. They are actually talking about it. And like that, you know, for me, I really liked it because this surpassed everything that I thought it could be. So, you know, and not only that, they did it well. So, no, you know, the Uncle Ben thing, I do agree with Neil, everything he said, because you know, I prefer my stuff to be how it is in the books, you know, which is why I love the Raimi trilogy probably a little bit more than what they've done in the MCU films. But I've liked the iteration in the MCU. I've really enjoyed both, you know, all 3 Spider-Man films. So, you know, and I felt this one, you know, as everyone says it's like the greatest Spider-Man film, because it's literally a combination of like all the movies that have come before, if that makes sense, whether you liked them, whether you didn't like them. And Kevin's right. The biggest surprise was Andrew Garfield. He was so much more likable in this movie than in his own movies. I hate those movies. They're fucking trash to me. I rewatched them painfully recently, and I stick by my opinion. They're even worse than I remember. And but that's just me. You know, I really fucking hate those films. But you know, he good in this movie. He wasn't.
And you talk about Andrew Garfield, possibly seeing Andrew Garfield again because everyone liked him. But I twigged, I think I brought it up in another episode, where Tobey Maguire comes in and says, "That's not your friend," and points at Andrew Garfield, and then they start firing off webs at each other. Now, how does he know that that's not their friend if he hasn't seen them
because
before?
Because he's an older guy with like 2 kids in a Spider-Man costume.
I think
if we're being blunt,
Maguire, I think we'll see Maguire again.
I think so too. I've said that before on the podcast, because I said this. Why get Sam Raimi for Doctor Strange movie?
But he recognizes Ned's mum as well. How does he recognizes his mum? He says, "I know you," or "I've met you," or something. He says as he steps through the portal.
No, he says, "I've seen you."
I've seen you, as if like he knows.
Yeah. Okay.
How does he know?
No.
Yeah.
But anyway, let's just say William Dafoe.
I think he
William
will be.
Dafoe was just
I think the bets
phenomenal.
are on that he will be. I think Doctor Strange is gonna like fuck with everything. Who reckons Ben Affleck will come back as Daredevil?
No. Let's not.
Now I'm just chatting. Now I'm really chatting shit.
That's like
man, what's happened with Ken?
What? He's still there.
I'm
Is
still
he
here.
still there?
Yeah.
Oh, my thing's got loaded. Let me get rid of my face. Maybe we'll bring him back. Hang on.
So William Dafoe, he was amazing in this.
He's still gone.
He was chill. He was just the scene
Maybe
where they're
it's my
fighting
connection.
and he's like
Am I
punching him
getting
in the
lag?
face, and he's just staring at him, laughing and stuff like that. Is just that was crazy. That just cemented his greatness in this. He was absolutely fantastic. But yeah, some really solid performances all around. Thoroughly enjoyable movie. Lived up to the hype. Who knows what we're going to get from it moving forward? But just a really, really well done. To be fair, they pulled it off fantastically.
Yeah, I didn't see any like Neil. I didn't see any spoilers, so that was I have to say that was a massive
Well, it definitely was.
Because the audience that we saw as well, they were incredible. The audience at the IMAX, it was just the best movie experience I've had in a long time, where everyone's like literally screaming, clapping, cheering. it was just so good.
That would have been. Yeah. I'm sure that would have been increased.
We got everyone.
Sacha, it was you. We were all here, bruv. It was you having connection.
Oh, okay. I couldn't see or hear you, dude. So
no worries. Okay, so let's move on because we could talk Spider-Man forever. So we'll touch on Spider-Man more. We're going to do a separate podcast about Spider-Man. What's next? We'll do that soon. So we'll talk a lot more about this and what the future of the character involves and stuff like that. So let's talk Matrix Resurrections. Fourth in the franchise, a long time coming. I didn't get to see it at the cinema because I had COVID, so I got it on streaming, HBO Max, and it's it's a film that divides me, in a sense that when I spoke to Sacha, I said to him because he'd seen it, and I said, do you think this is kind of like a movie where they've just kind of done it to hold on to the rights kind of thing? And he was like, watch the movie and that'll kind of answer your question. And they kind of do that in the thing with the game, saying, oh yeah, Warner Brothers is making us make another game, we have to redo it because we'll lose the rights to it. And it did pretty much feel like that's the reason this has come about at this time. It didn't look or feel like the Matrix movies. It doesn't have the look, feel, and tone of the other three. However, you could argue that this is kind of a reboot, so therefore it should be slightly different. I thought the idea of the Matrix being a game was a good idea. That kind of did explain. They kind of explained why he was having these visions and that kind of element. The fact that they use screenshots of his memory as the game was just stupid. How has he created that? It's like they've recorded everything that's happened in the movie from the Matrix, but a lot of the stuff happened in the real world. So how could they have recorded those scenes? Like the Matrix couldn't have recorded it and downloaded it. It was really bizarre use of, for me, it's probably just budget and laziness. They weren't going to create, but they could have thrown images from the original Matrix games or whatever it is. I don't know.
Which are canon to the story as well.
Which are canon. And exactly. It could have explained it a little bit better. So that was really lazy for me. Just seeing actual screens and stills and videos of the original movies as the game was really lazy. It was very much rehash in terms of the storyline, just trying to find out, willing to accept the Matrix, what it is, what it's not. The fighting scenes are underwhelming overall. I wouldn't go back and watch that movie for any action scenes. As much as 2 and 3 has its problems, you could go back and watch it as an action movie and still be blown away by some of those scenes. Didn't really have any of those moments. I like the fact that you had Agent Smith in it, but not having Hugo Weaving back. Huge mistake for me. And yeah, it just there just wasn't enough for me. I just felt really lackluster, really kind of disappointed. Neo couldn't fly, so you had to have this stupid bike scene which lasts for ages. But then they can both fly at the end or whatever it is. I don't know. It was just, and then she's flying and holding him in midair at the end. It was just, I don't know, just things just about it just kind of really felt off to me, and it just wasn't what I hoped it would be. And the trailer made it look a lot more exciting than it was. That made it like, oh my god, this
bravo
is
to marketing.
Yeah,
oh, fucking no.
It
did something right.
We saw those trailers, was like, damn, that's awesome. But it just happened. That's kind of how I feel about it. It just happened. I saw it. I'm not going to watch it again. There's nothing for me to revisit on that. So, guys, let me throw it out there. Alex, what did you think?
Very similar to yourself. It was just things like, again, obviously not having Hugo Weaving, fine, but I don't even understand why Agent Smith is in it in the first place. Because surely, okay, even if this is like a rebooted version of the actual Matrix, I'm pretty sure, I mean, it's been a while since I've seen 2 and 3, but I'm pretty sure that obviously Neo does destroy Agent Smith in the third one.
Well, you got to think about it like a computer program. So basically,
but why would they then, but obviously, even in the first one, obviously, when he takes his earpiece out, there's like this little bit of, he doesn't want to be in the Matrix. So why would the machines like create another?
Because he's part of the original coding. He's a piece of code. They're all pieces of code. Like, think about the Matrix being a computer program, right? Everybody
you can pick and choose what code you use then. So surely, for me, it just didn't make sense. You
could, but right? You got to think about it from the point of view as a programmer, because that's the whole point of it. He's a piece of code that's integral to the Matrix. He got corrupted the minute the one touched him or whatever their encounter in the first one, which is why he became a virus, because that wasn't supposed to happen. So he becomes a virus that could potentially be the biggest threat on the Matrix, which is the whole point of the trilogy. So basically, he's a virus. Neo's Norton's antivirus. That is literally it. You know what I mean? Breaking it down. Now, in this one, Smith is just there because the thing is, even though, he's a computer program, he was in the original Matrix. So he's just there, just doing his function, whatever that is. You know what I mean? He's slightly changed, but do you know what I mean? Like, but Neo's cured him. He's no longer a virus. He's just part of the system, isn't it?
See,
he was still, but the thing is, he was 2 and 3, so that's where it kind of didn't make sense to me. So I could understand if he was like completely like Agent Smith again from scratch, but he seemed to like know what had happened throughout 2 and 3, which to me just didn't make sense.
Because he's still able to manipulate the Matrix as much as Neo is, so it's not like he's not special. He's able to still manipulate it.
And that's just it. I mean, Smith gets his powers because Neo manipulated him. It's also reason why Trinity has powers, because when Neo saves her in number 2 and resuscitates her back to life, he implants part of his code in her, which is
because he goes in to take the bullet out.
Which is why she's got her powers now. That is actually the reason why. So it's like, okay, cool, all right. So they still exist, and Thingy rebuilt them. Whatever that shit was.
I didn't have necessarily a problem with that. Again, even like with Morpheus, it's just like, well, okay. Obviously, I didn't play the games, but I know that apparently I think Morpheus died in the original.
Yeah, the real Morpheus died. So this one's like,
fine. But I just didn't see the need for like, well, why do we, you could have just had a completely brand new character. It didn't even need to be like Morpheus related for that character to be in it. It was just kind of like, well, you're just throwing him in there just for like the name Morpheus more than anything else. Just like,
Agreed.
But
Lee, what did you think?
Again, pretty much the same. I was really hopeful that this was going to be good, because I did enjoy the first 3 movies. Like I say, the action scenes in all of those 3 movies were just memorable. They just stood out. It was really entertaining, and I was hoping that this would be the same. Obviously, going on the trailer, it was a really good trailer. Got me really excited for it, and I think that's it. I think the trailer was just so good that it did hype me up for it, and then I sort of came out disappointed. I thought the new characters, they did a great job. I don't think it,
Yeah, there was a lot of cast from Sense8, which is the Wachowskis show on Netflix. Which, if you haven't seen it, very good. Go see it. But yeah, they used a lot of like the alumni from that series because they're used to using those actors.
Yeah, I thought the cast was really good. But yeah, story lacked, and the action scenes were awful. Really, I mean like you say, there's nothing that really sticks out in my mind that like you, I probably won't. I was thinking of seeing it. I'm not seeing it again. I was thinking of seeing it again just to maybe see if my opinion would change on a second viewing. But yeah, I'm not in any rush to go and see it again, which I'm really gutted. But I do want to see more Matrix. So if they do another, like you say, we're maybe moving forward with new characters. Don't go back to Neo. Try and do something different with it. I think that would be, because I do like the Matrix world.
Yeah.
That's the dollar question, really, isn't it? Because it's been like one of the biggest flops of the year. Yet Warner Brothers seem committed to make another. Because Ann Slanoff, the CEO of Warner Brothers, has turned around, addressed the numbers by blaming it on COVID and their decision for doing streaming at the same time. And it's like, well, you guys kind of did that yourselves. They want to, I think ideally they're after IP, and that's really what it's about, IP. And who knows what the HBO numbers are compared to the cinema numbers, because they haven't released those yet. I can't imagine them being that high personally, but because of the strong word of mouth that it's bad.
Yeah.
But she seems to want a fifth one, yet the Wachowskis, they seem to, Lana Wachowski, or her producer that produces all of her films, who's also one of their close mates, James McTeague, came out in an interview and said they have no plans for any further sequels. They said they might do one, but they're not in a rush, meaning that this was all a bit of an experiment to them. I think they said what they really meant in the movie. I think Warner Brothers wanted a sequel, wanted to make a big IP because it's all about IP. And, what better way to do it? Because it was kind of like, if you look at the news before, and we have talked about this on Zito's Gang, they were going to do a Morpheus prequel with Michael B. Jordan. And they wanted Simon Kinberg of X-Men Dark Phoenix, right? A director of X-Men Dark Phoenix, writer of The Last Stand and X-Men Apocalypse, to direct it.
Yeah.
And which one's the worst bullet we're going to dodge? I sure, it would have been a fresh take, but we wouldn't have got Keanu back. I'm not saying this film's great. Like, here's the thing. My personal opinion is I didn't hate it, but I didn't like it for the exact same reasons you guys said. I mean, for me, the biggest disappointment in it was the action. The action, like when you look at the Matrix trilogy, it films action the way I'm a big action movie buff. And what's my biggest pet peeve with action movies, especially nowadays? They look shit. You know what I mean? They all look shit. And what really bothers me is that they had the John Wick directors quit their day jobs, delay John Wick to work on this. You know, Chad, Trinity's husband. That's Chad. That's actual Chad.
Yeah.
What's his name? What's his surname?
That's
the director of John Wick.
He's the director of John Wick.
He's the director of John Wick.
It's because they give Keanu these weird force field powers instead of actually freaking fighting. But
yeah, it's like
anyway.
Yeah,
Neil, what did you think?
Yeah.
I thoroughly enjoyed it. I don't know what the fuck y'all talking about.
I'll meet Neil halfway,
No, I mean,
for sure. But I didn't hate it, but I didn't love it. I was like, what are they doing?
I mean, look, I thoroughly enjoyed it because I went into this film with zero expectations. I didn't go in expecting it to be even remotely as good as anything Matrix related I had seen or played before. I went in with this. I was like, okay, I've seen the trailer. Let me watch the film. And I went in there and I knew nothing. I didn't know what the storyline was going to be. I didn't know like how they were going to interpret Morpheus being back. And I watched it, and there were things where I was like, okay, that's a bit clunky. I might have gone differently there, but on the whole, I enjoyed it. I liked the fact that they were like, okay, the first Matrix trilogy, the trilogy was a video game, even though they only focused on Matrix 1, the film. They only focused on the first. I liked the fact that they made it, that they was like, oh, they made it a video game. I liked the fact that, to me, one thing that they did was they were like, it was sort of like it was made for people who've already watched the other Matrix films, because it wasn't like, okay, even though this was like the next iteration, right, of the Matrix that they told you about in the last Matrix films, they told you, they were like, oh, when he meets the architect, yeah, this is volume 6. Yeah, he's like, this is volume 6. And then at the end of Matrix Revolutions, when they got the little rainbow and all of that, and the Oracle, the architect, and the little girl are talking, and they said, and she's like, oh, is Neo coming back? Will I see Neo again? And she's like, it's possible, my interpretation of why Smith was back was because in order to get rid of Smith, the deal that Neo makes is, I'll get him back into the Matrix. And in order to get him back into the Matrix, he has to let Smith, basically.
Yeah.
Right? So that's how he gets Smith back in. But it's because obviously Neo is the one, it's sort of like a part of Neo becomes a part of Smith. So in them resurrecting Neo, they inadvertently resurrected Smith.
Okay, yeah. What was the weird Oracle power where she's able to look through this portal now and transfer her consciousness and all this bullshit?
I don't understand that.
I don't even know where the Oracle is now.
No, she's Sati's the new Oracle.
So she's the little Asian from
I know who she is. I know that, but where is she? Is she in the real world of the Matrix? It's like she's on this weird.
No, she's in the Matrix. She's in the Matrix.
Isolation period.
She's in the Matrix.
But then, but she's just like in her own area. Do you know what I mean? It's just like she had.
Well, don't forget the way that
she had that weird like well that they were all looking into and stuff like that. So where the hell's that come from now?
Well, she could be anywhere.
I don't know, but remember,
if you open the right door where the keymaster goes through, you can go anywhere. You could be in Timbuktu.
She had no keys. She had no keys.
She don't need keys.
Yeah, but even though she had no keys, how many
Oracle couldn't go where she wanted in the first three Matrix.
How many people actually use keys?
What's that?
In this Matrix film, nobody used keys, and they were bouncing through back doors like nothing.
Well, going through mirrors and all sorts. It was
but at the beginning, when Bugs runs into like the agents, when she's like, oh, she's watching the rerun of the first Matrix, and it starts going differently. When she's like, oh, like winding up going through a door. She's like, she's stunned to know that could happen, but it's still a thing. Well, there is no keymaster now, so all them doors are potentially unlocked and opened, or some of them are at least potentially unlocked and opened. Seti, who's been in the previous version of the Matrix, and now in the new version of the Matrix, right? Well, technically, she ain't really caused any problems. She was, and she was sitting there with the Oracle. So maybe she learned a thing or two. Maybe the Oracle was like, "Here, I'm gonna show you a little backyard that you could come to and chill. And see this little fountain. Yeah.
But obviously, this version of the Matrix isn't the same version as the last one, because the last version of the Matrix was created, and Neo wasn't around, unless they captured him at that point, and it's all been the same version since incarnation. But if you redo the Matrix, surely you need someone to create all these doors and openings. They don't just make them as part of the program.
I think it is the same. I think it is the same version, because at the end of Revolutions, when they go up in the sky and the look of the film is, well, it's kind of similar to this film. It's like,
actually, that's true. The color palette of the
even at the end of the movie, it loses the green tint completely, because the whole point of the green tint was it was supposed to reflect how the programming codes used to come up on
and it makes sense because obviously the Oracle, because
whereas
obviously the
nowadays
Oracle's
that
kind of
doesn't
grown
happen.
up from that point.
But nowadays we could talk about this for ages. This should have been a whole separate podcast. But
it is what it is. The
It
Matrix
is what it
came
is.
out. It's been gone. Who knows? Has anyone watched The Kingsman?
Yes, I have.
What did you think?
I gave it a solid 8 out of 10, actually.
Okay, cool.
I really
So how does it
enjoyed
compare to the first two?
It's very different from the first, because the way you're presented to the characters, the dynamic is the same. You have an older gentleman. This one I'm actually trying not to spoil.
Yeah.
So you have an older gentleman and you have a younger gentleman, and obviously it's that younger gentleman kind of being introduced to that world. But the way that they deal with that dynamic and the way that because essentially there was no roadman back then. So, but the way that they deal with that dynamic and the fact that they actually, I don't know if it was inadvertently, I hope it wasn't, but they actually do things that harken back to the first Kingsman movie.
Okay.
But I know it's enjoyable, and there's some hella surprise. There was a hella surprise in that movie, and I was like, I like it. Because when it happened initially, I was like, oh. When the surprise happens, I was like, this is a dream. This hasn't happened the way I think it is, and I'm about to see how it really happened. Or this is this, and they were like, no, what you saw happened, and I was like, now that's a surprise. I am enjoying myself.
Interesting. All right, we'll have to check that one. Just Boxing Day or something like that. So it's quite a recent thing. Okay, so let's move on to the streaming services. So we had a few on Netflix. I think the first one that came out was it Unforgivable? Sandra Bullock.
Yeah.
Unforgivable, waste of my time. Just poor movie.
Unforgivable?
Yeah, it's just poor. I mean, she's trying to. The character's just not likable. The character's a bitch, and I don't feel sorry for her. And it's just kind of a bit lazy.
The way you did that, she's a bitch. It was good. The way you did that, he's like, to make her tell she's a bitch. You see something bad happen to her, and you were like, you deserve that.
Yeah, pretty much. It's just like you're an idiot. So, I mean, there's kind of a twist at the end, but there's obviously more to it, and the way it plays out.
You kind of you know that there's a twist coming. From the whole point of the story is okay. Well, yeah, she's gone to prison, but you kind of know that something has happened. She doesn't.
Otherwise, if she did something and went to prison, it's not a story. It's just like
but she never denies what she's done. So you kind of figure there's going to be some sort of twist at the end, but it's just kind of like okay, whatever.
Yeah, no, exactly. So it's probably not worth your time. Anybody else watched it? Yeah, don't bother. Okay, so what else do we have? We had The Power of the Dog, Western movie starring Benedict Cumberbatch, based on a best-selling novel. I was really bored. Really bored.
Really? Okay, I've not seen it, but I've heard very good things. I've been meaning to check it out.
It takes a long time to go nowhere, and look, don't get me wrong, his performance in it is fantastic. So every scene he's in, he is gripping, and that's what keeps your attention. I think that, again, it's a really obvious story, sort of of a person who is he's brass and he's arrogant, he wants to be the boss, he wants to be taken seriously, but then he keeps talking about this buckaroo person that kind of raised them and taught him everything he knew, and he basically, it's you fight. Do you guys want spoilers? I don't know. So
Yeah, I'm probably not watching it.
yeah. So
Yeah,
basically,
I'm not
you basically you realize that he's gay, and obviously at that time it wasn't really a thing, so he's kind of suppressed that. His brother is there's just no relationship there. It's just so weird. And then his brother gets married. He doesn't like that. He thinks she's a gold digger, and then she has a son who he develops a relationship with, and you're not sure if it's sort of like a father-son relationship or if it's like he's attracted to him. And then spoilers, it turns out that the son ends up killing him, and it's just a really just a really kind of pathetic way, just like really unassuming, just like suddenly, they're talking, they have a moment, he gets sick, and then the scene cuts to him in a coffin. It's like, really? All that for that payoff? It's just like, So I know there's been a lot of Oscar buzz for it and stuff like that. I get it from an artistic point of view in terms of how well it was directed, the sets and all that kind of stuff, but as a story and just the editing, just not for me. It's just really, really disappointing. But I can understand him being up for awards. He was great with what he was given. Can I ask you your guys' opinion as an actress, what you think of Kirsten Dunst? Because she's in this, and I think she's horrible.
As an actress?
And I try to think of all the movies she's been in. I'm like, can I think of her performance I actually rate her? Because she's like the weakest link in that Rami trilogy by far. And I'm just like,
I've not actually seen a lot of her films, to be fair.
Kirsten Dunst.
She had like one good episode of Fargo, which she was in. But
oh yeah, that's true. Yeah.
I think she's really overrated.
Interview with the Vampire.
She was.
Interview with the Vampire. She slam dunks it. Jumanji. She hasn't done anything. She hasn't. Huh?
She was like 14 at the time.
Yeah, she was, and she won. Wasn't she nominated or did
too early, innit?
That's apart from Spider-Man, that's the only thing off the top of my head I can think of. Which
Jumanji as well. I mean, look, she was a talented child actress. She could hold her own in those films. In a lot of the stuff that she was given. In the Rami trilogy, yeah, the first one she was fine. She played the role well in that one, but as each episode went on, it kind of, she kind of took liberties as an actress with the role, because in the second one she didn't even bother looking the part, and then in the third one, she's just like terrible in. She's not even trying. Kind of like the Jennifer Lawrence effect with the X-Men movies. You try really hard on the first one, and then as they go on, you care less and less. But the thing is with Kirsten Dunst, she picks roles in big dramas and stuff, and she's serviceable, but she hasn't done anything since she's been a child actress that has blown the doors off and really, really got the roles.
Respect to MTV Movie Award winner for Best Kiss 2003.
So yeah.
So there we go. Anyway, that was just kind of like off point. So okay, so that was that. Then we had Don't Look Up.
Wow.
Which
I enjoyed that a lot.
Yeah. So Don't Look Up is it was kind of a big deal for Netflix in terms of the star power it has alone. I don't know what their salaries were and how much they kind of pumped into this, because obviously you had Red Notice where you had Dwayne Johnson, Gal Gadot, and Ryan Reynolds, but this you had Leonardo DiCaprio, Jennifer Lawrence, Kate Blanchett, Timothée Chalamet, Meryl Streep, cameo from Chris Evans, Mark Rylance, Jonah Hill. Just a huge cast.
I personally, I reckon that a lot of them probably were comfortable with lowering their fees.
I think so.
I reckon they were sent the script, and Adam McKay, he's chummy with a lot of them. I reckon that they got the script, they knew it was him doing it, and he was like, "Look, you cost a lot of money."
Adam McKay, he's very, very talented. He's if we, obviously as a producer and a director, but in terms of a director, let me just have a look. So obviously he did Vice, The Big Short, you know, these are movies which are Oscar contenders, you know, and stuff like that. But you know, he's had his other comedies. You know, he's had Step Brothers, Anchorman 2, and stuff like that. So, you know, he is an around comedy. This is a drama / comedy. It's not an out and out comedy type of movie. It's very much seems like Leonardo DiCaprio is really big on environmental issues, you know, and he talks about this, and it seems like this was just a vehicle for him to say, look, I try and tell people all the time that the world is going to die. Nobody's listening to me, paying attention. So let's do it via this and make it more dramatic as an astronaut, because it's just going to be more impactful. And yeah, so I kind of see it as that. And it's not essentially a clever movie. It's in terms of its like his writing, his comedy. I thought Jonah Hill was just kind of being Jonah Hill, but his tone didn't seem to match the rest of the movie. He was very separate from it. Meryl Streep was quite fun, you know, she just seemed to be playing like Trump. But yeah, it was a strange movie. I enjoyed it, but it didn't have like laugh out loud moments. It didn't have really dramatic moments. Again, it just kind of went through its paces, but it was enjoyable. But there was no major highlights for me on it. So what did you guys think then of Don't Look Up? Sacha, you said you really enjoyed it.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it. I didn't hate it. I didn't. Yeah, it was fine. I don't know, man. It wasn't like movie of the year or anything, but you know what I mean. It did what it said on the tin for me. So you know what I mean. I can't really. It was a solid 4 out of 5 or 3.5 out of 5, I would say. But you know what I mean. Like, yeah, I didn't really think about tone and stuff because I was just watching it. I guess.
Kind of just watching it on the background. It's on Netflix.
Yeah, I wasn't even watching it in the background. I was just watching it. So yeah.
Neil, what do you think?
Loved it. Absolutely loved it. I thought but like Jonah Hill was like he wasn't really in the same movie. I thought he absolutely was. He was Donald Trump's son to a T. Donald Trump's kid to a T, right? And I felt like, to me, watching that film, I understand what you're saying about, you know, DiCaprio having the whole kind of, he's very, very much, you know, he's about the environment. He wants to save the planet. But I honestly, like, maybe it's the system, but I thought the film was an analogy for COVID. I thought if you replace the word comet with COVID, I was looking at the same movie.
Okay.
Because it felt like, for me, the way it nailed today, it nailed our society, our world today, where people don't listen to the actual scientists, the actual people who know what the data and the people who know what they're talking about. We don't listen to them. We listen to, you know,
Facebook
celebrities and politicians and people who generally don't give a fuck about you. You know, people who are like, oh, well, look, if the world blows up, look, I know I'm on that rocket ship going to another planet, but I hope you're okay. You know, and it just, there was so many moments where I was like, you're nailing present day. Oh wow.
Yeah.
Even like,
and I love that I love that I saw the Apple Tesla kind of vibe you got in terms of the company and stuff like that.
Like life with 2 eyes. And, and like Mark Rylance, I'm like, if his ass is not listed as best supporting actor when them Oscars come up, you like Oscar people, you need to wrap it up with the people you got on your voting panel. You need to wrap it up, send them boys out like Old Yeller, take them to the back of the farm. You got the rifle, you know what to do.
Mark Rylance is just phenomenal, whatever he does. Lee, have you seen it?
No, I haven't seen it yet. No, I was saying earlier, it seems to be the month of sort of Christmas movies and series, Netflix series. It's all come out, so I've been caught up watching all of those. So I've not really seen much of the new releases yet.
Okay, Alex, what was your thoughts?
Yeah, kind of in the middle, really. I liked it. I thought, yeah, totally agree with Neil. It sort of totally nailed like society today, and you're watching it thinking, yeah, this is exactly like what would happen. But you know, again, we're going spoilers, kind of, aren't we? Well, actually, I don't want to go too far because he hasn't seen it, but yeah, I just thought, just the way that each, you know, like the government acts, like the Mark Rylance character acts, is just how you imagine that if this actually happened in real life, this is exactly how things would play out.
Yeah.
The only thing I think for me that I just felt like it just dragged on a little bit too long. It was like 2.5 hours or whatever, or almost 2.5 hours, and it just towards the end it just seemed like I'm sure this you could have probably like cracked it down to like 2 hours, and
Yeah, it was
feel like
fairly long.
as long as it was. But other than that, yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed it.
I think the funniest
I will
part
say-
was actually the bit where Jennifer Lawrence's character keeps reverting back to the fact that the general charged her for the nuts and the drinks.
Yes, she was my spirit animal in that moment, because she was like, every moment she kept going back to it, and I was like, yes, I feel that. I feel your
why
pain.
would he do that? Why would
It
he
was
do that?
It's like, you know, it made sense early on, but then like you say, she even like calls back to it like far later in the movie with like Timothy Chalamet, and it's just kind of like, okay, she's still got this.
She can't let it go.
Still can't let it go.
And one thing I'll say is, Lee, you haven't seen it, but I'm hoping that you will see it. There's a cameo in it. I mean, technically it's a little longer than a cameo, but there's a surprise in the movie, and my gosh, is the person not great? Is the person not brilliant? It's like, it's what you wish would happen. When you think of a lot of people and you think, what would happen if this person did an interview and then somebody just left their mic on and just let them talk? And I was like, oh yeah. I was like, you're doing a brilliant job right now.
Right. So what other films came out this? We had 8-Bit Christmas. Really enjoyable movie. I don't think it's been seen a lot. It did come out on Sky quite quickly. I think it's on some streaming services. But Neil Patrick Harris basically telling his daughter the time when when Nintendo came out, and him and his friends wanting to play Nintendo, trying to get a Nintendo. And movie spoke to me. A lot of things spoke to me about that, about how I felt about the system and stuff when it came out. And it was just a really enjoyable kids movie. You know, some really fun performances from the youngsters, and just really heartwarming bit at the end. You know, just, you know, where it's about family relationships and fathers and stuff like that. And yeah, I think it's one of these that everyone who's seen it has said how great it is, and it's a really nice, fresh Christmas movie. And I wouldn't be surprised if it makes sort of like a top 10 list in the future. You know, in terms of Christmas movies. But Sacha, you really enjoyed this as well, right?
Oh man, this shit was dope. It was actual dope. It's made my top 10 of the year. It has to. It has to go in, because you know what? There were so many instances that reminded me of shit when I was at school, like growing up as a kid in the 80s, and like I remember going to the summer fair at Elm Grove. I remember Marvin bringing his NES and charging people to play it. and charging people to play it at the summer fair, and it was a thing. And then and he did the same thing like years later with his Mega Drive. He did it all the time. Like he'd have and like the kids that didn't have the game console at home or had a different system at home would go and line up and like pay him like £1 and like play. And like something like that happens in this movie, and it just brought back that memory of summer fair at fucking Elm Grove and shit. And I know you three went Elm Grove, Alex, Lee, Ken, and I was just like, oh my god, that totally did happen. Like, you know what I mean? And then it just reminded me of stuff like when you were a kid and you'd go to Debenhams in Harrow and line up to play. Line up to play the Super Nintendo when the Super Nintendo came out, and they had the console. They don't do that shit no more. But do you know what I mean? Like it was like this big like event kind of thing. Now they don't do that in this movie. They do something completely different, but more in line with the Marvin thing. But the execution was gold, man. And I was just like, oh man, that totally would have happened in the 80s.
Yeah, and the desperation of these kids is just so funny, and some really great performances. Winslow Fegley, who was like the main boy in it, you know, just really great. And it kind of crosses over a little bit, sort of like instead of like how, not kind of How I Met Your Mother, but you know, Boy Meets World kind of thing, you know, going to kind of voiceover and stuff happening is kind of, you know, where it's telling the story. And yeah, just delightful. Has anyone else seen it?
Yeah, I actually watched it.
What did you think?
Chatting about it, it was also like, yeah, I really liked it, even though I was never a Nintendo guy. I was a Sega Mega Drive guy, so but I could appreciate I could really appreciate it.
I like
again,
them both.
Just the again, just like little things, like you say, like, you know, Neil Patrick Harris is doing the voiceover, and then, you know, he's talking about like riding his bike as a kid, and his daughter's like, "Oh, did you have your helmet on?" And so like suddenly, like, you know, it cuts with, you know, like the helmet.
He has to tell his, he can't not tell his daughter he didn't wear a
exactly,
helmet.
you know, like, he always wear helmets in the 80s. It's like, was it a green one? It's like, it turned out, I can't remember what colour it was to start with, but it changes to the colour that, you know, she then says. Things like that was just like, like really nice, and just a good, you know, feel good family film. And it's just like, I enjoyed it.
Yeah, definitely. It's really kid friendly. So anybody out there that, if you haven't seen it yet, you know, sit your kids down, get them to watch it. And you know, if you're our age, you'll definitely definitely reminisce with Neil Patrick Harris's character. Right. So what else did we have? We also had this was like a Sky exclusive, like a Sky movie, Last Train to Christmas, Michael Sheen. I watched that. It was basically he is basically it's like disco nightclub owner. He gets onto his train and he kind of almost has like a Christmas Carol kind of thing. It's kind of he goes back into the past, he kind of goes into the future, learns about his life kind of thing. It's quite a sweet movie. Michael Sheen's quite good in it. He's basically like Peter Stringfellow on a train, and but yeah, it's okay. It was kind of serviceable. Just kind of sit back, watch a Christmas movie. What else do we have? So some of the stuff that you guys mentioned. So Alex, you watched Wrath of Man because it came out on Amazon.
Yes, it was up on Amazon. I missed it when it came around on the cinema for whatever reason, and yeah, I enjoyed it for what it was. You know, sort of actiony movie. I mean, it's Guy Ritchie, but it didn't feel sort of like typical Guy Ritchie sort of style. But you know, I don't mind a bit of Jason Statham every now and again, and I thought it was enjoyable enough for what it was. Anything, but you know, for a sort of
it was a fine watch. It did feel like it's a fine watch, but it did feel like it was more, instead of being directed by Guy Ritchie, it's kind of produced by Guy Ritchie. It's like it had his little first.
It didn't sort of have his sort of like visual flair that he would normally sort of have or anything.
It was just a point and shoot job for him. Totally.
I saw that as well. I didn't feel the same as you guys because of what you just said there. You got to understand, this was coming off The Gentleman, which was my #1 film of last year, and I fucking love that film. That was kind of like a return to form from Guy Ritchie. It made me forgive him for like doing that Aladdin movie and that King Arthur movie, and that it was that good. So I'm hearing Statham and fucking him team up. I was hyped for this movie. Unfortunately, I thought we were going to get another The Gentleman, and then I watched it. I was like, "What this is a clear case of Jason Statham has been given a script where it's another generic fucking Statham movie, and it's got his body a bit on the side job because he's probably not doing anything at the time." Because he saw him in an interview saying how much he missed filming Snatch. So like, we've got to do a movie together. And it just seemed like Ken said, he just let his first AD direct the whole damn thing while he was like probably having a few fags with Statham off camera and just not giving a shit and just getting made. And I just felt none of his stamp as a director's on it at all. And I just felt, this is a point. It was a lazy movie. I just thought, I thought it was, even if it wasn't Statham and him, I don't think that would have changed how I felt about the movie, because it was just a generic kind of.
Yeah, it's just a run-of-the-mill kind of
action. Run-of-the-mill kind of 2021 action film, which I hate.
Movies, so I mean, I'm not big on the Fast and Furious franchise, so I never watched Hobbs and Shaw and all that kind of stuff. So it's been a while since I've seen Statham in anything. So
fair enough.
Like, you know what, I'm not really used to seeing him do the same thing over and over again. For a fair while. So it was just kind of like, okay, you know.
I get that.
Yeah, like I say, you know, it didn't blow me away. It was nothing spectacular. But it was just kind of like, okay, sort of, you know, sit back and chill on a Saturday afternoon or whatever kind of thing.
I also watched the Green. I also watched the Green Knight.
Okay.
I didn't feel it. There's loads of people saying it's like film of the year, amazing. I don't know if I just didn't get it, but I was really disappointed considering what the reviews were saying about it. Has anybody else seen Green Knight?
No, it's on my
No.
list. I actually really wanted to see it, but okay.
Neil, how do you feel about it?
I agree with you, Ken. I mean, it was genuinely. It was like I watched it, and the whole time I was watching it, I was just like,
Why though?
Am I supposed to be following? Like, am I not following the movie? Is
Yeah.
is everyone else seeing? Like, there's one bit in the movie, and I'm like, there's one bit in the movie, and all I'm gonna say, Ken's gonna know what I mean, right? Is my man when he's holding the sash in that strong grip, right? And in my mind, I was like, I understood why it happened, but at the same time, I was like, why is it happening? What?
Yeah.
What is this doing to the film? What is this doing to progress the story other than what I already know?
Yeah. Yeah.
And
absolutely.
it was just it like there was certain parts.
It's not an action movie. It's not a Lord of the Rings type movie. It's a weird, trippy, arty movie that for me just didn't work. But yeah, that's me. What else do we have? Infinite on Amazon. A bit of Wahlberg, Marky Mark. Anybody see it other than Alex?
Yeah,
that's right.
So, give me your thoughts.
Yeah, I think Mark Wahlberg probably wasn't well cast for this movie. I like the story.
Is he ever?
No, I just thought it had potential. The storyline, like I was talking to Alex earlier, the storyline was really good, and I think they could have done a lot more with it. But yeah, Mark Wahlberg just didn't suit that sort of genre, kind of like sci-fi. I don't know. Yeah, he wasn't a good fit for me. Other than that, though, I did enjoy it. I thought it was okay overall. Yeah,
it was serviceable.
Yeah.
Oh, go on, Neil. Yeah.
Oh, sorry. Well, I was gonna say it was serviceable, but in my mind, I'm like, I understand why this was on Amazon Prime and not in the cinema. Right. I I try very hard to not call a film, shit, and I mean, like, you got to earn that designation, but and I don't actually think, and I'm not. It was like you had the right actors in the film, but some of them were playing the wrong roles.
Okay.
So, like, there's a character in the film who's in the beginning of the film, and I'm like, you should have been Mark Wahlberg's role. I was like, no, you should have been the dude. I was like, we should have been following you for the course of this movie.
But
right?
he was
Wahlberg, like, if you could have,
kind of.
now we're on the money.
That's it. Yeah, I agree. If you would have swapped those two characters around, it would have worked probably a lot better.
Interesting.
Sounds like another Mark Wahlberg film that's coming out soon.
Yeah.
Yeah, had some interesting ideas. It's a bit, I kind of, it's got sort of Highlander vibes. Gave me a bit of sort of the Old Guard off Netflix with Charlize Theron sort of thing, that kind of stuff. But so I like the sort of concepts and stuff. It's basically people remembering their past lives and stuff. But yeah, I just thought execution wise, it just kind of didn't work for me. And they sort of threw in a bit of mystical sort of supernatural powers to one of the characters towards the end, which I didn't quite understand.
Yeah, it wasn't necessary.
I think it was talked about earlier in the film, and it kind of popped up, but it didn't. They didn't really sort of explain like how and why it sort of was supposed to happen. So yeah, it was just like whatever. Again, throw it on in the background or whatever, but I didn't pay too much attention.
Sasha?
Yeah, no. Big no for me. That's the short version. That is a real short version. Everything I hated in a modern day like action kind of movie is on display in this film. There's nothing in it for me. I was just like, shit CGI, check. Half really crap choppy camera work, check. Yeah, no, man, no, no, not my thing, not my thing. Hopefully, Uncharted with Mark Wahlberg will be the movie of the year. hopefully, I can hope. Yeah,
What will be it?
All right. So, okay, we'll move on. What else did we have? So, I watched The Guilty on Netflix.
Oh, yeah, I've been meaning to watch that. I still haven't had a chance.
Yeah.
Or maybe
I
I
don't
won't.
know. It was again. It was a
that with Jake
really
Gyllenhaal?
yeah,
Jake
Jake Gyllenhaal. So it's a really obvious
Yeah, I saw that.
story, but it was very much a situation movie. So it's all kind of in one place, like two rooms.
Is it like just him on the phone the whole time? A bit like, I mean, I've not
Pretty
seen
much.
Yeah.
Yeah, pretty much. I think. Yeah, he's pretty much him on the phone the whole time, or interacting with a couple of characters around him. But he's in that kind of the 911 call center the whole time.
So you don't sort of see what's going on the other side of the calls. It's just,
no, you got to visualize
what he's saying. Right, okay.
Yeah. And as a performance from him, great, can't fault it. Really, really strong. I didn't like his character, so the way he said and did things frustrated me, because it's like, why are you talking to that person in that way? Why are you acting that way? That's kind of ridiculous, and it seemed to be doing that to kind of draw the story out longer. And it's like, well, look, if you weren't such a dick, then you could have got here quicker. And so it didn't give enough of a reason to why he was acting that way. Is he just a dick, or what's the reason for it? Here's some reasons maybe why. Didn't quite agree with it. Didn't really get it. So there's a lot about it that didn't quite work. But him as a performance was fine. If you want something that's a great situational movie, you want something like Phone Booth, which is fantastic. Yeah. This kind of the vibes is going for. It's probably very low budget in terms of what it cost to make. Probably filmed it in a few weeks. But it was, again, it's kind of a filler, but it is worth seeing for his performance and just the way they've kind of built the movie. And I suppose it all depends on the person, how much you can view and imagine what's happening to what you build up in your head. So it depends on your own imagination about maybe how you might think or feel this movie goes. But
he did a good job of that.
Have you seen the original?
Like you say, you only really see him on the calls, and the way that he's describing the scenes and the calls that are going on, the picture in your mind, you can see what's going on out there really in your own head. And I thought that was done really well. But you do kind of find right at the end, isn't it? You kind of you do find out why he's being such a dick throughout the whole thing, because he's kind of like pissed off at himself. Really, the whole thing is just. Well, again, don't want to spoil it for anyone, but what's happened to him, and it's not good. So that's kind of why he's like the way he is throughout the movie.
Any other thoughts on The Guilty?
I really enjoyed it. I thought it was really well made, really well shot, and I thought it was a really good small film, to be quite honest. Then when I saw who directed it, I was kind of surprised that it wasn't bigger than it actually was. Because I think it was Anton Fuqua who did what's that?
I think you're right, actually.
Who did Training Day and stuff. So I was like, okay, cool. But no, I actually thoroughly enjoyed it, to be quite honest. It's not like my favorite. It's not in my top 10. It's not worst film of the year. I just thought it was a well put together film, really, and the kind of thing I'd expect. If it wasn't him, if that was somebody's first movie, I would have been blown away.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? I would have been. I would have been like, oh my god, this is really, really good. This is a low budget film. It had me from start to finish. Or even someone's second movie, I would have felt the same way. But because it was that director, I was just like, wow, okay, why did you? All right, fair enough, cool. But
felt very much like a COVID movie.
Totally.
We want to film in an isolated set and just kind of get on with it. There's some really great voice talent out there on the movie as well. You got Ethan Hawke in it, Paul Dano, Peter Sarsgaard, Bill Burr. So there's quite a few recognizable voices in the movie and stuff like that. So it's got some star power from that point of view. You just don't see them. Okay, so let's see what else we've got. So I watched Reminiscence. Hugh Jackman and Rebecca Ferguson. Wow.
Yeah.
The less I have to reminisce about this, the better. So I am going to quickly say this is a quite self-indulgent movie. It's trying to be bigger than what it is. It's trying to be smarter than what it is. It's a bit messy. It just didn't do anything for me. It was quite a poor movie. It'd probably be in my bottom 10 of the year. It was really poor. And I just remember at the time thinking, oh, it's got some quite star power in it, in terms of huge. Why isn't this doing better than what it is? It was because of the movie, nothing else. So, reminiscence?
Not seen it. No, I've not seen it. I was interested because I think I don't know. Lisa Joy, did she write it or produce it? I think she's Christopher Nolan's brother's partner. I think who they do Westworld together. So I was quite interested to check it out, but obviously I know it hadn't done very well, so that's why I haven't checked it out yet. And
yeah,
given what you've just said, I probably won't check it out now.
Yeah, it's shit, man. It's dog shit.
I mean, look, it made 15.5 million at the US box office. That's kind of what it says about that. But yeah, okay. So then, what else do we have? I watched The Card Counter. I liked it, but also found it a little bit frustrating because I found it a little bit predictable. So some really great performances in it. I think that Oscar Isaac is great in it. Really shows some depth to his performances in terms of his character. Basically, his character is someone who's gone to prison. He's learned card counting whilst in prison. So you kind of have a flashback to the story of why he's gone to prison, which is basically military based. And then obviously the present day. And he comes across the son of somebody he was in the army with, and he tries to guide him and help him because he's suffering. Within that person is Tyler Sheridan. So he's got a great credit in terms of the writer. So the writer is Paul Schrader, who directed it, and he's the writer of Taxi Driver. So he's well versed in terms of his movies. He wrote Taxi Driver. He wrote American Gigolo. He did the screenplay for something else. He's been around. He's done a lot of Scorsese stuff. So Scorsese produced this, but obviously he hasn't done much directing. So it comes with sort of like good pedigree from that point of view. But yeah, I just felt it was a little, just a little predictable to where the movie was going to go. However, it has a real chilling end scene, which basically it's two characters are coming together for like a final resolution for the movie, and they kind of go off screen, and the kind of camera pans away, and you just hear what's happening, and that's really intense and really well done. That's a really powerful scene. So that was really, really good. So I would definitely recommend it. I think it's definitely worth a watch. I think I expected it to be a little bit more of a bigger movie, but it is very more arty movie. It's very, very small in terms of its scope and people and stuff like that. So, however, the forced love interest in this, that doesn't work. And the way the movie ends with that love interest, it's so forced, and it has the most ridiculous end credits I've ever seen in like 10 years. So when you watch that movie, you guys will have to let me know what you think about literally the credits. The final scene, credits, and it's the most bizarre thing. And yeah, very, very strange. Has anybody else seen it?
Not yet, no.
No. Okay, cool. What else do we have? So, Encanto.
Oh, I love that.
Still haven't seen it yet.
This is a movie. It's on Disney Plus. It is magical in every sense of the word. I absolutely love this. It is Disney's, I think, your 60th animated feature. I think it comes up at the beginning.
Number 60.
Yeah, number 60. The music is fantastic. It's got the lyrics by Lin-Manuel Miranda, who can do no wrong when it comes to this stuff. And it's just a beautiful film. It's about family. It's about relationships. It's about trust. It's about finding your purpose. It is just fantastic. I can't say enough good things about it. It's just Disney on song. There are probably 3 moments where I cried. Just overwhelmed me. But yeah, Neil, what do you think of it?
I genuinely wish I saw it in the cinema. That it was. This film is what I think. What was Disney's film last year Christmas? The one with Jamie Foxx.
Had
Soul. Was it Soul?
Soul, yeah.
Soul.
This film is what Soul, what people thought Soul was gonna be. Right? The amount of effort and the kind of push that they gave towards Soul, and then the movie wasn't really what they kind of promoted it to be. Encanto is that. Encanto is that movie. In regards to Encanto, should have got a way bigger push than it got.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I it might be pandemic related. I don't know whether they just decided it was going to be like a Disney Plus thing to get people watching that over Christmas, and stuff. But people who've watched it, families, I know they've said like since it's been on, they just keep having to put it on repeat, very much like Frozen did. It's basically it's Colombian. It's celebrating Colombia, the Colombian people, their life, heritages, just all about that. And I think the way they've done the characters is fantastic. They have mixed race families. It's not like every Colombian looks the same or every Colombian's got the same skin tone. They're all different. And and it celebrates it so well. The color palette in it is fantastic. And yeah, so I cannot say enough good things about this. It may make my top 10 movies of the year. And again, it's kind of a little bit like a musical in the sense of how the music drives the story. But yeah, it's more of a musical than say like Raya and the Last Dragon, which is more of a traditional sort of like Disney movie. It's got a lot more music that drives it forward. So really, really well done.
Yeah, I think Soul was the Pixar one, and Raya the Last Dragon was the Disney animation one.
Correct. Yeah. And the other movie that I saw, which again everyone's kind of spoken about, I know Neil's spoken about it, Amrita's spoken about it, In the Heights. Finally watched In the Heights.
I'm applauding you, Ken, because you finally watched it.
I mean, this is why I say it's been a hell of a year for musicals, because you've had that, you've had West Side Story, you've had Tick Tick Boom, and I'm like, all three of these could make my top 10. Do you know what I mean? And it's just, it is fantastic. The story is it's simple, but the way it's delivered is fantastic. The music is just gripping, and it's again Lin-Manuel, the man's genius. Who's in it? He's in it. Yeah, who's in it? Who's in it? But it's very much a movie and a musical where, again, the language and the talk is sung a lot, as opposed to just conversations happening. But there is normal speech and conversations, which does drive it. But unlike sort of like a lot of like these musicals, you can really understand what they're saying. The conversation flows within the song. You don't miss a beat, and there's some great performances. Anthony Ramos was fantastic. I'd love to see him in more stuff. And I think the big surprise with me was Corey Hawkins, who plays Benny in it. He was brilliant. And I'm like, hang on, isn't this the guy who did like the 24 reboot like 10 years ago? And it's like he still looks like he's like in his mid-20s. And I was just like, he was brilliant in it. His singing was fantastic. Really, really rate this movie. Neil, tell me about it.
My gosh, I mean, In the Heights, and in this year, we have had Queen, which wasn't everybody's cup of tea, but I love the franchise and I love the movie. We've had a Matrix film. We've had two Marvel films. No,
Black Widow,
we've had three. Yeah, we've had 3 Marvel films. This movie was the first movie to make my top 10 of the year.
For Shang-Chi. I forgot about Shang-Chi.
Yeah, made my top 10 the day I saw it. Oh man, like outside of something like a West Side Story, I'm not really a musical guy. But I went to watch this film and my gosh, I became a musical guy
Mhm.
because this
Yeah.
film is it is epic. It is the way a lot of you guys Spider-Man is how I feel about In the Heights.
Yeah. It's I would recommend this to everyone, and I would say even if you're not a musical fan, anything, I don't like musicals, not really watching music, this is different. It's if you enjoyed Hamilton, you'll definitely enjoy this, but I would say even if you didn't enjoy Hamilton, because it can be a little bit of a hard listen, maybe a hard watch, because of what they go into, this is just so accessible, and just I've got enough good things to say about it. It's just
The
fantastic.
music, the characters, the story,
Mm-hmm.
even the surprises. I'm sorry, I'm gonna tell you about one of the surprises, right? Mark Antony turning up in this movie, looking real different. Looking real different. I'm not gonna say how, but looking real different.
And Jimmy Smits is in it, so you know you could sell it on that just by itself. All right, so yeah, definitely go check out In the Heights. That's probably going to make my top 10 of the year. It's going to be a hard top 10 this year. It's going to be a difficult podcast, that one, especially to come up with a joint top 10 with all of us as well. Is there any other movies that you guys have seen in the last month that you kind of want to talk about at all?
Can I talk about one that I watched again?
Go on.
The Harder They Fall.
How do they fall? Okay, tell me about it. It's ringing a bell, but
Idris Elba, Cowboys.
Oh, yeah,
that's on my to watch list. That's the Netflix one, isn't it? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I've heard really good things about this in terms of maybe even Oscar buzz.
I mean, for me, the movie it spoke to me on levels I didn't think a movie could, let alone a movie about cowboys.
Okay.
It spoke to me. It spoke to me.
You saying Wild Wild West didn't?
How dare you? That film is a motion picture classic. But no, like The Harder They Fall, that movie. I mean, the movie spoke to my parents.
Wow. Okay.
Right. It's generational. It spoke to generations, and wow.
You sold me on that, so I'm gonna have to see that this weekend now. Anything else from anybody else?
Boy Called Christmas. I saw that.
Was that the Sky one?
Yeah. That was
So
good.
tell us about it.
Good story. Much detail when we get into it, but it's good cast, great cast. It's just an easy watch. It was it was about Christmas, which when we did the Christmas top 10, it's those sort of films that it was about Christmas. I enjoyed it. Yeah, it was good. I'd recommend it.
Quite a cast actually. Yeah, Maggie Smith, Stephen Merchant, Kirsten Wiig, Michael Huseman, Joel Fry, Jim Broadbent, Toby Jones. It's got quite a hell of a cast actually. So, what's the basic premise of it?
It's a boy. His name is Christmas. Yeah, or a version of Christmas. But you find out basically that the town that he's living in have lost the Christmas spirit, or they don't call it a Christmas spirit, but everybody's down in the dumps, and so he says he sends everybody off to go and try and bring things back to their town to try and inspire people and everything like that. So the boy's dad, the mum isn't in the picture. I think she died, and so. The dad says he's going off with his crew to go out and find something and bring something back, and he has this horrible aunt that comes and lives with him, and she sort of pushes him out the house, and he's like living outside or something like that, and so anyway he decides to go off. He finds a map that of his mum has knitted him a hat, and inside the hat he then finds a map to this elf town, and so he then travels with his his friendly mouse, who's voiced by Stephen Merchant, and they have a really good relationship. And they travel, and they come to this elf town, and it turns out that his mum has been there, and she's sort of related. They all know her, and no, it's a really nice story. So I don't know, I could go into it and 20 minutes telling you about it, but it's a really good journey. Really good scenery. It's a nice story. So it's definitely one to watch at Christmas for sure.
Okay. Might have to say just because he's my namesake, Gil Kenan, although because he's American, he probably pronounces it Keenan. So he directed Poltergeist, City of Ember. He did Monster House back in 2006. He's actually also a writer for Ghostbusters Afterlife. So there you go. Cool. I think that pretty much wraps up December. So
I had one film I saw.
Oh, go on.
I haven't mentioned Ghostbusters Afterlife.
Wasn't that November? We did that in November, no?
I wasn't there when you guys did it. I saw it in the States.
In November.
We spoke about it.
But did you see it in December or did you see it in November?
I saw it in both months. I saw it again.
You were on the podcast when we spoke about it.
Are you sure? Because I saw it in the States.
Yeah, I know,
No,
but
you did because you told us about watching it.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Fair enough. Well, I saw it again in December.
He saw it again in December. It still counts. It still counts. I'm just going to the so November movie review. I'm looking at the YouTube video now to it.
Well, it's just that damn good.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, November we had Alex, Neil, Andreas, me and you. So.
I remember us talking about that.
It is that damn good. It is that damn good.
It is that damn good. Now will that make your top 10 of the year? Oh, it's a year. Well, thank you very much for joining me today, gentlemen. Much appreciated. So we hope that we've given you some a little bit of insight and thoughts on the movies that are released this year. Some we've just kind of gassed about how much we loved it, not giving you much information at all, in which case just go watch the movies. Others we've kind of gone into more in depth with, but that's the trouble when you're trying to go through like 20 movies in one episode. But look, we've got a lot we're looking forward to in terms of 2020. We've got a list of stuff that's coming up. So we are going to do a
You mean 2022?
Bottom 10. What's that?
You mean 2022?
2022, yeah, I do mean that. So we're going to do 10 movies and a top 10 best, top 10 worst movies of 2021. We're going to be looking at Spider-Man, what's next, The Matrix, what's next, Aliens, what's next. You know, we're going to be kind of going in that, coming up with some ideas, casting ideas and all that kind of stuff. So plus we'll continue to do our reviews. We won't be doing Morbius because that's now April. So what's our big release for January?
Scream,
that is it. That'll probably be our next cinema visit. So we'll do a spoiler review for that. Any thoughts on who the killer's going to be?
Randy.
Yeah, I'd give it. I say they somebody used the Ouija board. They brought Randy back, and he's like, "Screw it, you guys let me die in Scream 2," and now everybody suffers.
I don't even remember what happened in the sequels. I mean, I've seen the first one, a couple of times, but I think I've only seen the sequels maybe once when they first came out. So I don't even know what the last what happened in the last. How many?
You know what?
Does it mean?
There's 4, but I would say number 5. I'll tell you like this, right? Scream 4 has my favorite moment in any Scream film.
I don't even know if I saw the.
Elaborate.
Hayden Patinier's character, I believe it's Kirby, for the classic moment of, in which horror movie ask a horror movie question. And all the killer gets to say is, who's the killer in? And then she literally lists like every horror movie villain possible. I mean, this list goes on for like 30 seconds. And when she's done, she's like, did I get it? Did I get it? fucking got it. She puts the phone down, and I was just like, fell in love.
I don't remember much of Scream 4 at all. I'm looking at the posters. I'm like, did I watch this movie?
Yeah, I don't think I saw the fourth one. To be fair.
But I'll have to revisit these.
They're good movies. You should watch them.
No, I'll revisit.
No. Let me rephrase that. Scream
this was
4.
still, this was still the Wes Craven movie number 4. So I will get onto it. Still had Neve Campbell, Cody Cos, David Arquette, all the usual suspects. But if Matthew Lillard isn't in this one, then they've gone wrong. That's what I'm saying.
Well, look, he's in the first 2. Yeah, he did good.
Nah. We want more. I would have said if Spider-Man was made back in the day, he would have been who I want to play Cleese Cassidy. He would have been my Carnage.
You know what, Ken? You know what I feel we should do? I'm saying it on air because that way, like, it can never be taken away. We should do a retro casting. Take a film that we love and say, well, if this film, that was made in 2020 was made in 1990, who would be the cast?
All right, cool. We can do that. Yeah, they've done a lot of that online in terms of like the Avengers, haven't they?
The Avengers and stuff.
Yeah. But they only do it for Avengers. They did like the 70s and the 90s. I'm like, something else.
All right, we'll do that definitely. So drop some drop some ideas and movies in the comments of some films that you'd like us to retrocast. Back in like 90s and 2000s stuff like that. So if it was made back then, who would we have cast? And see if we can do it better than how they've done it recently. Fast and Furious or something like that might be quite fun to do. Just correct those movies. Well, actually, we can. It was Point Break, so this is the same thing. Just go back and Keanu Reeves.
Yeah, we're going to recast. We'll have Keanu Reeves, Patrick Swayze.
yeah, exactly.
No, man, I'd do it in like the 70s. I'd have Yul Brynner. I'd have Steve McQueen. Yeah.
Wow. Okay. All right. We'll do that. Maybe what we'll do, depending on when the film was released, maybe it's like 30 years prior casting or something like that. So whenever the film was released, we have to do 30 years earlier, something like that. So, all right, cool. We'll put some thoughts into that. Thanks, Lou. I appreciate that. That's cool. Right. Thank you very much for listening, guys. We've chatted for quite a while this evening. So, oh my God, it's coming up to 2 hours. So if you're still with us, I appreciate it. Even if you're listening, if when an episode's this long, listen to it. Just put it on 1.5 or 2 times speed. It's just, you get through it. Listen. We've got great content.
No, listen to it.
Don't just listen for the first 10 minutes and then just skip. This is on double speed all the way through. We got some good things to say. Thank you. So if obviously all our episodes are available on YouTube, you can catch the video versions on YouTube, all our trailer reactions and movie reviews. All our podcast episodes are available on all major platform networks. As I said before, if you can help support independent podcasts, you can do so on Good Pods. It's available on iOS and Android, and we're holding ourselves up in the rankings there. But also, if you listen to us on Spotify, you can now rate podcasts on Spotify. So we really appreciate a 5-star review on Spotify. So thank you very much for joining us, gentlemen. Much appreciated. And until next time, peace out.
Bye.